After an unforgettable 4 weeks of exploring the charms of Malta, soaking in the beauty of Valletta's historic wonders, and immersing ourselves in the quaint villages that dot the landscape, we find ourselves reluctantly bidding farewell to this enchanting island. The end of the sailing season beckons, and our compass points towards Tunisia, where our winter berth awaits. Embarking on what promises to be our most ambitious voyage yet, we relish in the anticipation of the open seas, the invigorating cockpit showers, and the endless expanse of azure blue beneath us. Yet as we draw closer to our destination, adversity rears its head.
The motor's stopped.
But that, my friends, is a tale for another time. First, we need to make our way into a marina for final preparations and to complete our checkout procedures before departure.
Hi, good afternoon. This is sailing vessel Helios. We've got a booking for today. Helios. We have just come round the sort of eastern side of the island. You're not far, like 3 minutes from the marina.
It's about 9 o'clock at night, and I'm hearing Richard out on the deck. I've just got out of the shower, getting ready for bed, and he's putting sail up. Let's come find out. What you doing?
I am picking up code 0. When we came into Valletta a month ago, it didn't feel complete.
I think the swivel at the top of the sail needed a bit of lubrication, and it was just too much resistance, and it wasn't furling the top of the sail tight enough, so we ended up with a little bit of a bag. And we unfurled it when we got in, and we filled it up again, and we had the same effect. So anyway, I want to use the code 0 on our trip across to Tunisia, and I want to get it up before we leave.
Why are you doing it at 9 o'clock at night?
Because there's no wind, and the wind is expected to come up. Expecting wind from sort of off the stern for the next 24 hours, 36 hours while we're here, and it's probably not very good conditions to stick this up in the marina, considering it's a downwind sail. We're trying to start sailing away with the dock, so it's just a lot easier if we do that right now.
Okay, you're going to start to bring it in?
Yeah, but I need to release.
Yep. I'm making a little holster for our electronic flare. I almost finished this one. This is one I made last night. It's going to go in here like this. Just fits down, and that pops over, and this will fit onto our life vest. All I have to do is I want to do a little bit of a hand sew to go over that, because we want it to be easily accessible. So there's a nice easy Velcro, and we wanted this to be easily grabbable so you don't have to put your fingers in. And the other thing I have to do is tie a line on here so we don't lose it, and I'll make that plenty of distance so you can hold it up high, but we just need to pick up a little bit of line from the chandlery this morning to finish that. This is going to be the Velcro tab closure. So I'll just make the tab first. This fabric is called Sunbrella. It's a marine canvas, and we bought a heap of it on a big roll, which weighs about 20 kilos, to do lots of jobs on the boat. It is the same canvas that all of our current canvas work. on the boat is made of. We're going to Africa.
We are leaving Valletta, leaving Malta. It's 3 p.m. on a Monday. So we're off, and we've got a bit of a southeasterly that will blow us along for the first 16, 18 hours, and then it will get a bit quiet, I think. So the push is going to be try to get to Monastir before nightfall tomorrow. You know, one of the things that's fueled this passion and dream of mine, it's a little book called The Amazing Voyage of Jack the Crow, which is about a guy sailing his mirror dinghy, and the inspiration of his voyage is, well, one of his things was the Dr. Dolittle series, and the thing he liked about it was that Dr. Dolittle got a boat or something like that with a few animals and was just going to sail around and bump into Africa.
Yes, we're going to bump into Africa.
We're going to bump into Africa. Yes. Hopefully in a nice controlled way into the marina. Yes.
Well, Malta has been beautiful for us.
Yeah.
A month? Maybe
Yeah,
4 or 5 weeks?
No, we got here on the 26th. What's this?
Oh, so 4 weeks exactly.
4 weeks, yeah. Overall, it's been a lovely experience. Met some lovely people, and there's still lots for us to see and do, I think.
We'll be back.
Yeah, let's want to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We actually never say we'll be back.
Yeah, but this might sort of be on our route back.
It's on our way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ferries around.
So this is not a big voyage. 184 nautical miles. We normally calculate at about 5 nautical miles per hour. Sort of hoping on this passage we'll make a little bit better average than that, maybe 6. So what goes into planning a voyage like this is, first off, weather. Obviously we're looking for weather conditions that are going to suit the direction that we're sailing. So at the moment we've got the code 0 out, which is a good sail for us, gives us a lot of speed, more sort of reaching conditions. Obviously that's ideal and you can't always have that. Smashing upwind into 15 knots is not a lot of fun, so we're sort of trying to avoid that. So the first piece is trying to find a weather window that's going to suit the voyage that you want to do. We've been watching the weather for about the last 10 days, and this is the most suitable window. But what we've got is southeasterly. We know we're going to have this choppy sea here for a little bit as we go around Malta. And then the wind is forecast to ease back, and the swell will ease back as well. Sort of hoping we make enough progress that as we arrive towards Tunisia, we'll be into very little wind and we'll probably be motoring. The other piece of planning around that weather is when you're going to arrive. Trying to arrive into a place during the night is not a lot of fun, especially if it's a new country and you're having to check in. So we're actually sort of pushing it a bit hard here, because what we're trying to do is get in the late afternoon, early evening. So if we're too slow, we're going to be coming in later at night. Not impossible, but not ideal. So right at the moment, we have about 12 knots of breeze. Apparent wind angle at about 130. With the code 0 up, we should be doing about nearly 6 knots. We're doing about 5. And the reason for that is mainly the sea state. And how the sea state contributes to it is that flapping of the sails. The sails are flapping, they're not generating any power for us. Jude is being an absolute trooper and cooking downstairs, which is not fun in these conditions. Would have liked to have prepared a little bit more before we left, but we brought forward at pretty much the last moment. We brought forward our departure time by about 8 hours. Really, that was based on the weather, so we're trying to avoid that front at the back end of our voyage. How you going there, honey?
I'm starting to think soup might not have been a good idea. It's pretty difficult.
Pretty what?
It's pretty difficult to manage soup.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got about 16, 17 knots. We're surfing along at about somewhere about 8 to 9 knots of boat speed, and yeah, it's started to crank it up, which is good. We need to make a good bit of progress for the next few hours with this wind to get us, like by tomorrow morning, want to knock off most of this passage. So when the lighter wind comes, if we need to, we can motor the rest of the way in. A couple other pointers for passage planning. One is the moon. So one thing I look at is when the moon is going to be out and how much moon, and something called luminosity. It's about 6 days off the full moon at the moment. I think the luminosity is at 77%, so I assume that's 100% is a full moon. But moon set tonight is about 2 a.m, so we're not going to get a lot of benefit from the moon for the whole night, but it'll be good while it's there. You might not think it makes much of a difference, but out at sea where everything else is pitch black, it certainly makes a bit of a difference just to be able to see the waves. Probably the next thing I look at on the course is there anything I'm going to bump into? So I'd really put that down to land, reefs, islands, along the path. And for us, we've only got one island along the way that's of any sort of concern. We should get to about 5 nautical miles away from it, but we need to make sure we keep a sight on it. It does have a light on it. I suspect that we won't see that until tomorrow morning. The other thing then is other vessels. And main thing for us here is we're not in a main shipping channel. We do have the possibility of fishing vessels around the islands that we're going to go by. And then the other thing is the Middle Sea race that started the other day. That main part of that fleet is coming south from Sicily and it's going to go south of our position to an Italian island before they turn around and actually come back through where we've just sailed now. So I suspect sometime early tomorrow morning we might cross paths with some of them, so we just need to keep a watch for them.
Once the moon set, the night enveloped us and nothing was visible but the stars. Amidst the darkness, a beacon of civilization emerged as we sighted the lights on Linosa Island, and for a short time we had mobile coverage, so we took the opportunity to update family on our progress. The radar showed us passing within 6 nautical miles of the island, just as we planned.
Good morning. Sun is about to rise. 7:15 Malta time. About 6:15 Tunisian time. Been motoring for probably the last 2.5 hours. Breeze has died. Not really died too much. Main thing is come right round behind us, so we can't really use the code 0 any longer. Forecast is for it to be quite light, probably after lunch, maybe picking up with a southerly, which is what I really want. We need to charge the battery anyway, so that's good. But problem right at the moment is it looks like we've done a bit of fishing overnight. There's a fishing line, quite a heavy gauge fishing line caught around the port rudder. Thankfully it didn't get caught around the prop. It's not too bad, the sea's calmed down, probably less than half a metre now. Very pleasant day. We've got the race boats for the Middle Sea race. I think we'll be crossing their path in the next hour or two. So it's nice that we're going to do that in daylight. We'll have to keep a bit of an eye out though.
Coastal hops, and there's lots of things to look at. I'm used to seeing cliffs and rocks and forts and castles and houses and things. But on a passage there's not much to look at. This is what it looks like to the south. This is what it looks like to the west. This is what it looks like to the north. At least Richard's in that one. This is what it looks like to the east.
So we've got a bit of a race on. It's 11 a.m. I think probably last light's about 7:30 p.m. So we've got 8.5 hours, 58 nautical miles. That's an average of 6.8 knots, which is easily doable for us. Easily doable. So motors. We're on about 2,400 RPM at the moment, motoring with main. There's no wind really, 2.5 knots. The wind is from our beam, which is really good, but it's not really adding much. If that came up, we'd continue motoring under sail, and that would add probably another knot and a half if that came up, which would be really great. Got 27% of our fuel left. So we've got a 195 litre tank. So what's that? That's 60 litres. So I think we've got plenty of fuel. Though you never quite know because those measurements aren't always linear. Sometimes it sort of assumes the tank's all square, all the way to the bottom. Don't mind going in after dark. There are fishing nets around. We will have a pretty good moon. We saw from last night how good that was. So a bit later, I think we will be fine. But definitely prefer to get in there sooner rather than later. So we're going to go all out now and just absolutely bang it with the motor if we need to. See if we can get in there. I don't know, maybe 7 would be a good target for us. This is not ideal. I don't like to have a deadline to try and hit the end of a passage, which is why our original plan was to try and leave at 4 a.m. and then that would have got us in the morning of the day after. Yeah, like 4 a.m. on a Tuesday would have got us in Wednesday, maybe about 10, which means that if it's getting a bit you're a little bit behind schedule, it doesn't really matter. The issue with that plan was that from about 7 a.m. in the morning, there was quite a strong north-northwester coming through, possibly up to about 30 knots. So we made the decision to leave earlier, have one night of disturbed sleep, but it means we are on a race at this end, which is what I was expecting, and the weather's what I was expecting, which is very light. So that allows us to put the foot down if we want to and make up the time. So it's a little bit more in our control. So we're motoring. So that means one thing: abundant hot water. So time for a shower.
That feels better. You shower. You might wonder why we have a shower in the cockpit. Well, I've been feeling a little bit sick when we're underway. It's been pretty rolly, and especially the shower, which is more like confined. I'll be a bit sick. And also it's a bit smelly down there with all the hatches closed. So I'm more likely to get sick down there. They're my excuses. Richard, on the other hand, doesn't need any excuse to have a picture.
When you're doing your passive planning and you've determined your route from your weather, then you need to look for anything that's going to get in your way. Obviously, physical things like a reef, but there's also things like oil platforms. We've got one over behind us, so this is something I identified as something I need to look out for as I approach Monastir. Both from a point of view as it being a landmark, so I can validate my position, but also being an oil platform, it's got an exclusion zone around it, so we have to give it a reasonably wide berth. I think it might be nearly about 5 nautical miles. We just had an engine alarm, fuel temperature warning. So I throttled back, had a look at the engine compartment. Didn't look to be overly hot, couldn't smell anything, couldn't see anything obvious. Cycled the engine off, back on again. Running now at 2,200 RPM, so slightly slower. Not sure whether that was an issue or not. I would hope not, because the engine should run at that. But yeah, not making as much time as I wanted, and oh my god, look at this. Did you see that? Dolphins. We haven't seen dolphins since the 2nd of July. I was about to scream out to Jude to come and have a look, and they just headed straight off. Anyway, back to my engine alarm. So I hope it's nothing to worry about. Another little problem to balance as we make our way into Monastir. Glorious day. It's like no wind at all. The water is that beautiful Mediterranean blue. All we've got to do is try and get in before it's too dark, and that gives ourselves any problems. the Q flag and the Tunisian courtesy flag. You've got it. So the Q flag indicates that we haven't checked in. It's Q for quarantine, not that we quarantine anymore. So you need to fly it when you arrive to a new country or area of control like the European Union. You would only fly it when you arrive to the first country. So we're ready to bump into Africa. So the last part of my passage plan is the pilotage in port. So Cap Monastir has a very shallow area to the south of it that extends out about 10 nautical miles. There is an island right at the end of that with a light on it, but the shallows are quite extensive in behind it. So that's the first thing I need to avoid, and there's a cardinal marker, a north cardinal marker to the north of that. It's about 3 nautical miles north of the island. I could possibly go inside it from a depth perspective, but yeah, I'm not gonna chance that. There's only going to be fishing pots and stuff, and then behind the cardinal marker anyway, there's a whole lot of fish farms. So the cardinal marker is my first part of my pilotage, and I get around that and I take a heading of 241. And that will head me straight to the entrance of the marina, which is 10 nautical miles away. The next thing I need to get around is the first fish farm. And once I get to that fish farm, I know I should be able to see the light from the marina if it's dark. There is a single flashing white light on the marina entrance, and then there's a port and starboard flashing lights. But those don't have the range, so I'll see the white one first, and then I'll see the port and starboard. I know that the marina entrance faces the south, so I have to get to the south just off those and then come back to the north to go in. I know that there's a first basin, and off the port it's a bit shallow, so I need to get out of that. And I go through a small entrance into the second basin. And typically you would tie up a fuel dock, but we'll see what happens tonight because we're going to get there a little bit later. You tie up there because that's where the police are, and that's where you need to go to first. The other thing of note is that there's quite a lot of fishing pots and fishing nets typically around the entrance, so it's not recommended to go in at night, but we're not going to have any choice. So to mitigate that, Jude's going to be up on the bow with a light, spotting pots and nets for me. We'll have our headsets on. Hopefully the guys from the marina come out and guide us through as well. I've heard that before. So where do I get all this information from? Mostly from Navily. People are very good at just putting this as a detail on Navily around the marinas, and especially a marina like this that's somebody's coming for winter. It might be quite unusual for people to come here, and so that's where I pick up most of my information about what I'm looking for, and check the relevance of it as well on the date. Some comments are 4 or 5 years old, others are from last month, which are rather helpful. We've got a problem. Earlier I mentioned we were getting some alarms on the motor, fuel temperature alarm. The motor's stopped. It's currently 3:40 Tunisian time. It's very gloomy. And anyway, we've called a pan because we have no power, no engine power. The forecast is for a northerly to build tonight. Last time I looked, it was going to be up to 25 knots. I've got a coast here that is very shallow water, as I was explaining earlier. So I think we're okay to sail our way to Cap Monastir, but we're going to need some assistance to get in. But yeah, what I understand about Cap Monastir Marina is they're not very good at answering on VHF. So that concerns me of just sailing up there and asking for assistance, and especially if I've got 25 knots sort of pushing me onto shore. I'm sure we can sail against it and we'll be fine, but it means that we're going to have to head back offshore until we sort out assistance, probably sometime tomorrow morning, which is not a nice prospect. Yeah, that's the situation. So at the moment, we're just trying to make the best of it and head our way as much as we can towards Cape Monastery Marina. We're currently only doing about 3 knots. We've got about 25 nautical miles to go. So at that rate, it's middle of the night that we get in